Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Career Choice Series webinar on entertainment law. The Career Choice Series is designed to help you choose your career path. Whether you're a law student, young lawyer, or transitioning attorney, find out what it's like to work in various practice areas and the best way to position yourself to get there. The Career Choice Series is brought to you by ABA Legal Career Central, Law Student Division, Young Lawyers Division, and the Forum on the Entertainment and Sports Industries. The Forum on the Entertainment and Sports Industries educates lawyers in the legal principles and transactional aspects of entertainment and sports law, provides a platform for the discussion of issues affecting these fields, and fosters excellence in the practice of law in these fields. The Young Lawyers Division is here to help new lawyers navigate the early years of their career and law students prepare for life after law school. The Law Student Division has just introduced premium benefits, which includes a savings of $250 on Barbary Bar Review, $25 off West academic casebooks, and a legal ethics bundle that includes a free Model Rules of Professional Conduct ebook. Upgrade to premium for $25. Sign up today at abaforlawstudents.com/go premium. ABA Legal Career Central is a career center that offers both career development resources and a job board for law students, lawyers, and other legal professionals across all disciplines and career stages. Today's moderator is Kathy Morris, a former criminal defense lawyer. Kathy is a longtime career counselor for lawyers and law students through her company Under Advisement Limited. She is the founding chair of Legal Career Central Board and remains an advisor, as well as a regularly contributing author to the ABA Voice of Experience magazine. Kathy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Emily. Hi, everyone. I am standing in today as moderator for Liz Stone, who is the regular moderator of this fabulous series. And I was particularly interested to participate in this entertainment law career choice program because for over 10 years my significant other has been with the probably largest freestanding entertainment law firm in New York City. So I live and breathe this, as well as do our speakers, Franklin Graves and Molly Shehan, who I want to welcome and introduce. They both went to we're in the first class, I should say, of the Belmont University College of Law in Nashville, Tennessee, and were friends in law school. Interestingly, co-founded the Entertainment Law Society and were avid networkers even during law school. They were already well involved in the arts community and have gone on to have really exciting careers. Franklin is general counsel for Naxos Music Group, which you may know is the world's leading classical music company, and he also is heavily involved in technology. He's a self-published author and blogger and podcaster and YouTuber, and he, I think, also importantly serves as the Young Lawyer Fellow for the ABA section of Intellectual Property Law. Molly is an associate at the boutique law firm of Milom, Horsnell, Crow, Rose, and Kelley, and she obviously concentrates in entertainment and intellectual property law as well. She's the vice chair of the Tennessee Bar Association, Sports and Entertainment Law Executive Council. She regularly contributes to Music Row magazine. And I think we have law students on our call today, and so it'd be interesting to especially note that she was the 2009 Copyright Society of the South Scholarship recipient. So you can all know that there may be resources to look for and quite a bit to know about the area. So let me start by asking Molly, I think, to start us off by talking briefly about, well, give us an overview, if you wouldn't mind, of the practice that you engage in.
Yes. So happy to be here today. So our firm is a transactional law firm, and we represent primarily artists, and some of our big artists are Keith Urban, Luke Bryan, Kelsey Ballerini. And then we also have small publishing companies, a few labels, and nonprofits, such as the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum. And I would say day to day, since we are transactional, we're just reviewing a lot of agreements, negotiating the terms of those agreements, and finding solutions for everyone's shared interest on either side. So whether that's through a TV program, a live performance, or some sort of collaboration with a brand, we're working on those agreements.
Okay, Franklin, you're also a basically transactional law focused entertainment lawyer. Can you give us a quick overview of your work?
Yes, definitely. First of all, thank you. Hello, thanks for having me. My practice is almost exclusively transactional law focused as well. I utilize outside counsel for any litigation matters that might come up. But a typical day includes contract drafting, deal negotiations, rights management, royalty administration, and internal legal support work. Being general counsel, I deal with a lot of HR, finance, and also licensing and distribution, a lot of different issues from a corporate perspective. I also oversee legal relationships with industry players. That's kind of like so one of the fun parts of my job is the industry players I get to work with, such as like iTunes and Apple Music and Amazon, Deezer, Spotify, Pandora, all those big names that you hear about, as well as some really great small ones as well. Naxos is actually a global company with our headquarters, our main headquarters being in Hong Kong. We have about 15 regional offices scattered around the globe, most recently opening one in China. So international law issues and intercompany concerns do also come up, and I focus on those.
That's great. And since our listeners are hearing you both say that you are basically transactional lawyers, I think it's fair to say that most entertainment lawyers are, but there are some litigators who litigate disagreements, say between artists and producers, or about the terms of the agreement, or disputes between artists and the label, things like delivery of materials and royalties. And of course there are criminal lawyers who, celebrity arrests or other sort of incidents might bring them to the table. But it's very exciting that you guys are with us today. Can you give us a sense, we talked about your interests already being there in law school, but kind of your career path to becoming an entertainment lawyer is something I think our listeners would like to know. Franklin, you want to kick that one off?
Certainly. So yeah, I knew going into law school that I wanted to work in the entertainment law field, but throughout law school I also focused more broadly on a combination of IP, so meaning copyrights and trademarks, not necessarily patents at all, really. A combination of IP and technology opportunities. So the entertainment industry is dramatically impacted by technology and tech companies. So I think it's also important to highlight and understand that that side of the legal field is very important to know going into this career path as well. But one other thing I will say is you mentioned litigation, and I mentioned that as well. I don't really handle that. But when I was in law school, so law students listening, don't discount any opportunities you may find with a litigation firm, because I did have an internship that was the summer of my 2L and went into my fall semester working for a boutique entertainment litigation firm. So that gave me the exposure to understanding the differences between a litigation entertainment attorney and a more transactional focused one.
Perfect. Molly?
Yeah, so similarly to Franklin, I actually knew before college that I thought I wanted to do entertainment law, and essentially the drive was to be a part of the support system for creative types, musicians. And so I interned for an entertainment law in undergrad, and that has multiple offices all over the U.S. and internationally, and I really enjoyed it. And so went to law school and sort of put both feet forward in that direction. And then I actually, halfway through law school, thought maybe I wanted to do policy work, and I interned in D.C. for a congressman out of Tennessee working on policy issues, and decided, no, the arts are really what interests me. And so it was a good learn what you don't want to do experience. And then I came back to Nashville and sort of hit the road running, reaching out to law firms and reaching out to all of my sort of connections and mentors. And I interned with a boutique entertainment law firm, the firm that I'm actually working for now. So I started interning the summer between my second and third year of law school, and then was hired afterwards.
I think
I've been here.
Yeah, and I think what you're both saying is get involved in any way you can in the industry early, often in the community, in a pro bono way, in a clerkship, because it is a challenging field to break into. Only in that in lots of towns and cities, there isn't as much industry. I know that the fellow who founded the law firm in New York I referenced, he started in the early 70s with a card table and a telephone and kind of one client, but that's really almost impossible today. Everything's diversified and so forth, and so I think, you know, get as much quick experience as you can. Don't turn it down. It's all good in the field. How about, I think you mentioned a little bit, Franklin, about it, kind of if there's a typical day in the life of an entertainment lawyer. Let me go back to Molly though and see first what she has to say about that.
Yeah, so my typical day, the music industry doesn't usually start until 9 or 10, and which is nice because it gives sort of a few hours in the early morning between 7 and 9, 7 and 10 that you can really kind of buckle down and get some work done. It's pretty quiet over email and phone. So my typical day is sort of get work done as projects come in, working on them. I am the only associate with 5 other partners, and so I'm sort of floating between different projects. So there's no normal day per se, however, in terms of projects, but I pretty much am working on consistent things. So it's either agreements, copyright registration, trademarks, counterfeit, sort of working on removing counterfeit goods from the marketplace, and asset protection and strategic planning with assets. So a few things that sort of stick out that are a little bit different is a few of our clients like to have weekly meetings with their legal team, and so we'll sit down and it will be not just per se legal, but a discussion of everything going on in their world so that then we can problem shoot and try to get ahead of things that are coming down the pipe. And then I usually leave work around 7. If there's something else going on or a showcase or a happy hour, I might leave a little bit earlier. And I'm just sitting in front of my computer working. So that's sort of my average day or normal day.
Okay. I think you have an interesting way of starting your day typically, Franklin. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so as Molly mentioned, that 7 to 8:30 or 9 a.m. time frame is really important for me. I utilize like a power morning routine that I've kind of developed where I focus on bar association work and personal blog or writings that I want to get done or other to-do tasks like that. But going into my work day, I typically start the day checking sources that cover entertainment and technology news. So everything from Billboard to industry blogs to tech like Verge and stuff like that, as well as domestic and international business and IP developments. It's basically a lot of newsletters that I subscribe to and automatic email updates that I check. It's also important to be aware of and educated on deal announcements, mergers and acquisitions, and personnel changes within the industry, the music industry, as well as the media industry. So that's where a lot of that comes into play as well. I then try to clear out my email and sort through high priority to-do items that I'll need to wrap up throughout the day. And then otherwise, I typically have meetings scheduled with various departments and business partners throughout the week. So I make sure I'm adequately prepared for those each day. I always try to disconnect myself for at least an hour or two as much as possible so that I can focus on reviewing or drafting any agreements that are waiting to be done on my desk.
You know, I think it's so interesting what you both have said, and I'll also add that these days the hours you state are really pretty accurate. Also, though, a lot of people are set up remotely, so you know, working on maybe clients who are overseas about to perform and have a problem. So it's really can be a 24-hour day, at least to be available 24 hours. But that is becoming, you know, more and more the case, I guess, generally in the industry. But it's still true, though, in yours. Somebody said they weren't on at the beginning, so they just want me to repeat. Franklin Graves is in-house. He's general counsel for Naxos Music Group in Nashville with an international Hong Kong-based company, and Molly Shehan is an associate at a boutique firm in Nashville, Milom, Horsnell, Crow, Rose, and Kelley. I think that it's interesting. Someone asked, do you think you learn more in private practice in the entertainment field than in-house, and what path would you suggest you go? The fact is that you can probably verify this, Franklin. Most companies don't hire lawyers right out of law school. It was really special that you are in-house so early in your career. So most of the time you're going to be going, you know, either to a firm or, you know, doing pro bono at, for example, in Chicago, we have lawyers for the creative arts. Do you guys have any other thoughts about that in terms of career path, private practice, in-house? Real quick thoughts.
Yeah, so this is Franklin. I'll jump in and just say that's something that I struggled with a lot, especially in the beginning of my legal career. So I started my job right after the bar exam, like literally 3 or 4 days afterwards. And so I didn't even know if I was licensed yet. And so I kind of jumped in and worked underneath my boss and the CEO and kind of learned on the fly. And a law firm, I would say I missed that structured training that most law firms can provide. And so there is a downside, I would say, to being in-house with a company that is not ready or structured to provide the introductory type training that you might get at a law firm.
And I'll add one thing, which is my first year of practicing, I obviously was learning a ton about substantive work, but also firm life, which is billable hours, life-work balance, which may or may not exist. As Kathy mentioned, it is a 24-hour. I mean, people call nights, weekends. Your time is their time. But and I think that one valuable thing with a firm and for transactional litigation and in-house that is different is each one works in a different way, and you have different practical steps that you have to learn to, which is true with any job, but certainly a firm has that as well.
Okay, and I think we're going to move to our next question for you, because it's something that one of the callers asked about too, in terms of sort of advantages, disadvantages. I guess the question is worded on the slide is, what do you love about being an entertainment lawyer? Sort of what's your favorite part about it, and then what are one or two, quickly, of the challenges that you face? Molly?
So my love is that it's very interesting. I find working in the entertainment industry, I mean, in terms of, yes, you're working with the arts and artists, but I really enjoy intellectual property law, so copyright, trademark. It's just fascinating to me the way that brands interact with artists. And one thing I really value is that everyone has a shared interest. So unlike litigation, where you're sort of in an adversarial role, and then other types of litigation, transactional, while you do have to advocate for your client, there's a shared interest of good music or a good live performance or a good brand partnership that's really sustainable. And so it makes working together a little bit more, it feels a little more collaborative at times.
All right, before you get to your what you might find as a challenge, let me ask Franklin what you would consider your sort of top positive about the field.
Yeah, so I am definitely passionate about the industry. I've always been a music enthusiast. I will say I've never been a musically inclined person. I had piano lessons growing up, so I've always been extremely passionate, and so I love working in a field that I am very passionate about and I really love. And then I also happen to love technology and all aspects of that. So the fact that the industry is so heavily intersecting and at times combative with technology, I love that aspect of it.
Okay. Quickly, Franklin, let's stick with you. Sort of what's the kind of thing you maybe find as a con, or something you might dislike a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So I mentioned earlier about the fact of being in-house right off the bat. I kind of missed out on some of that law firm aspect of it. So I had to supplement that with my memberships with organizations like the ABA and getting involved in the IP section in the Forum on Entertainment and Sports Industries. So I hate that, like, as a general counsel, I am not becoming what I would deem kind of, and what I see some of my peers becoming, a kind of an expert in a particular practice area or topic. I'm kind of focusing on all these different areas and avenues, which is a huge plus in and of itself. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm not happy where I am, because I really am. I love the exposure. I can't think of any other environment where I would be reviewing the types of agreements that I'm reviewing, or being involved in the types of deals that I've been involved with. So that's kind of a love, a hate as well, I guess.
And Molly, I think maybe the thing you dislike is what a lot of lawyers will dislike, no matter if they're in IP or corporate or other practice areas, litigation. But why don't you tell us what that is real briefly?
Yeah, mine is, I don't have any major concerns, but I wrote, or I thought, sitting in a chair all day. No, I think you fantasize or think, oh yeah, it's like a episode of Entourage and be around, but it is, you're behind a chair, behind a phone, negotiating, talking, and then billable hours, which is the universal, I think, reality of how we bill, but it certainly, it takes a little bit of getting used to.
Okay. It can be a glamorous field, but it also has a lot of, repetition the way a lot of things do. That's how lawyers get to be masters of the field. So it's a push-pull. Now, let me ask you quickly each. You don't have to explain them, just name them. I think that this is what I'd like you to do next. What are the top 3 skills you would suggest someone should have who want to practice entertainment law? Molly.
You said just name?
Yeah, just name them.
I'd say a good personality, get along with a lot of people, creative thinking, and attention to detail.
Okay, do you agree or disagree, Franklin? What are your top 3?
I agree. So attention to detail is my first one, a self-starter attitude, and then an underlying knowledge of experience in the creative process, and that's both from an art perspective and from a legal perspective.
All right, so somebody asked what books or news subscriptions in terms of sort of the getting that underlying knowledge, that industry knowledge. What do you read? What should they read or subscribe to? Do you have any thoughts about that? Either of you?
I think Billboard is, I was going to say, I think Billboard's sort of the holy grail of weekly updates. I know everyone in our office reads it weekly. And so, Franklin is really in tune, so he'll have a lot of suggestions.
Yeah, so I actually have a blog post that I wrote detailing all the different things that I read. I'm actually going to tweet that out on my Twitter account right now, and that's going to be that's a great resource for you to go and find all the different industry stuff that I read. And when it comes to Billboard, make sure you don't go to billboard.com. That's more tabloidy. Go to billboard.biz for the business side.
Okay, great. And I think you're all right about what you say. The industry knowledge, even with regard to things like forms of compensation, because this is really a creative area more than a lot of lawyers sometimes deal with. Being patient, because as you know, while many of the clients or companies, are wonderful and wildly philanthropic, there are sort of the prima donna vice versas, and you have to be really patient, and I think nimble. When Napster came in my era, it was a game changer, and things will change the game again. So that's very exciting to think about how the field will grow and how you'll grow with it. So what might people be surprised to know maybe about the practice area? Sort of an interesting question. Franklin, what do you think they might be surprised to know?
Yeah, so one of the things that I learned early on was that people that work at, I'm using air quotes here, big companies you hear about or are in the news all the time, they're just normal people like you and people on this call. So I've never been unable to reach out or find a path to connecting with somebody, whether it was just LinkedIn stalking them or whatever, just because they work at a company that you might think is out of your league. So it's really just a matter of time management, and they may not have the time that day or week to communicate back to you. So always try to attend conferences, happy hours, or other industry events, and you can likely start meeting and connecting with these, quote, industry players you hear about all the time. So just don't be intimidated, and just know that everybody is a real person at these big companies.
Molly?
I completely agree with Franklin on that front. And then my biggest surprise was, this isn't a surprise, but it's something to be aware of, that I think when you go into any industry, you think of the most glamorous side, which is hanging out with artists or going to parties. And while that may exist, and especially at a certain level, that it's just like any practice of law. You're working, so.
Yeah, that's true. Somebody asked, this is a sort of an interesting question. We've talked about having a background in corporate law or IP, litigation, but this person asks, have you done any immigration work in connection with your company firm? Because sometimes the artists or the athletes or whatever will be from another country and need sort of help with their status, or is that the kind of thing you work with an immigration law firm pretty much to do? Either of you have something to say on that?
Yeah, so we actually, we do have that happen with multiple. We have a few different artists that are international and from different countries, and we'll do sort of basic groundwork, and then we have a firm that we work with that specializes in entertainment immigration issues.
Franklin, anything to say about that?
Yes, I will just second that. I think it's dangerous. You can definitely mess up a lot. We all know ethical rules, or if you're a law student, you will learn ethical rules to practicing in an area of law that you're not familiar with.
Yeah, that's right. Little knowledge is a dangerous thing, right?
Yeah, so basically I utilize outside counsel and outside resources that are specialized and actually know immigration law, and I won't mess something up with a form that I think is just easy to fill out or something.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a combined question. A couple of people have asked this. You know, if they're not living in LA or New York or Nashville or even Atlanta, which we know are kind of hubs of entertainment work, do they have to move if they're in a another location, or can they think about also working virtually? What do you have to say? Any advice on that as we close our client questions out, our audience questions out?
I think obviously it helps to be in a city where it is more accessible, where you have more resources. And by that I mean entertainment lawyer for the arts, volunteer lawyers for the arts is what we have in Nashville. Kathy, you had mentioned what the program that you're aware of. And so those types of programs help get involved. And if your city has one, then you know that there is a need there. And certainly also in bigger cities, there's more clients and more opportunities. However, with that said, I think technology has changed everything so much that you could try to build a practice or work with clients in your local area. The hardest part will be finding mentors to teach you, since it's not as much looking it up and reading it in a book.
Yeah, I mean, in Chicago, there's an entertainment law practice. It's not big, but there is one. And then if you went to high school, let's say with Chance the Rapper, and you went on to law school from there, you know, that's the way you might develop a client, or you might have an indie artist in your area. But you know, I said that might be our last question, but let me ask you this, Franklin. If they're in a locale for law school that doesn't have a sort of serious status in being a top entertainment law school, how would you think they should kind of learn? What should they do in addition to taking classes? Can law students go to local CLEs? I mean, what would you suggest?
Yeah, so the first thing I would suggest is to join local bar associations, and if you're in an area that doesn't have anything local that's specific to entertainment or IP, then the ABA is a great outlet. Obviously, I'm very biased because I love the ABA, I'm heavily involved in it, but in all honesty, I found a home there as a law student, and then also now as a practicing attorney. So the forum on the entertainment and sports industries is a great place to start for the entertainment specifically. And then on the IP side, the section of intellectual property law is another area to kind of get involved in. But so if you're in an area where maybe you don't have classes or anything like that, there are also a lot of online resources and tips I can recommend. One of them is what I did when I was a 1L. I didn't have any opportunity because, as you mentioned at the very beginning, Molly and I both went to a brand new law school. We were part of the charter class. So we kind of had to come up with our own ways of not relying on an alumni network to get our first job. So I actually reached out to the host of a podcast that I used to listen to called This Week in Law. That was a podcast about technology, a weekly podcast or web series. And so I reached out to them and just said, hey, do you want a remote intern? The woman that runs it, Denise Howell, is based out of California. And at the time it was Evan Brown up in Chicago who is also co-hosting. And they were like, sure. They never had an intern before. I just kind of created my own opportunity. So think outside the box. And this goes again back to both what Molly and I mentioned about being creative and how you approach your practice. Be creative in how you approach the opportunities. And you sometimes have to create them yourself, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, one of our listeners mentioned that he's a hip hop enthusiast, which, by the way, I think is the new rock and roll, and he's going to the A3C conference. There are industry conferences. Don't be reluctant to talk to people there. You can follow up with them. You don't need to sit there and start talking about your career and how you want a job, but find people to follow up with when you go to these conferences. And so let's close with the issue of conferences and resources. Let me just ask you, since this is a ABA Legal Career Central offering today with some of the sections and forums, how has the ABA involvement boosted both of your careers? Franklin, I think you mentioned the ABA, so why don't you jump in first on that one, and then we'll finish with Molly.
Yes, definitely. So as I said, I started as a law student during my second year. I actually saw a journalist retweet a tweet by a woman named Crystal Brown. She is an in-house attorney with a movie studio out in California, and she tweeted about this program that the section of intellectual property law offers law students called law student reporters. And I applied and I was luckily selected, and I got to be a law student reporter at the annual IP conference that the Section of Intellectual Property puts on. And that's every year in Washington, D.C. So they paid for me to go to the conference. I just have to do my own airfare and that kind of stuff. But that was my first entry point, and that was so amazing as a law student to get that exposure, because everything is so, how do I put it? You get bogged down in that law school mindset as a law student. So it was important in my mind to get involved in organizations that help me see and interact with practicing attorneys and witness what the actual practice of law looked like, because the law school does a great job if you go to a school that can focus on practical aspects, and Belmont did that in some capacities, but at the same time, law school is law school, and you have your classes you still have to get through. So getting outside of the classroom and getting that hands-on real-world experience, I got that through the ABA, and specifically the Section of Intellectual Property Law, and then also the Forum on Entertainment and Sports Industries has it used to be part of the Musicana Festival, and I think that they're doing one maybe with the Music Biz conference that's coming up here. But either way, so conferences are a huge aspect. And Molly, I know you were involved with the ABA as well as a law student, so I'll let you take over from there.
Yeah, I have a very similar experience to Franklin. So I was actually the ABA student liaison or ambassador for our law school. And my third year of law school, I went to the annual conference, and that year it was in San Francisco. And as a student ambassador or liaison, I got a pass to go to every panel I wanted to. And so sort of what Kathy mentioned earlier, it was an amazing opportunity because I was exposed to people that worked in different areas in California. And I obviously had been a part of the Nashville community, but not the California community. And so I was exposed to people that I was able to connect with from all over. And then also other law students that had similar interests to mine, and they were all over and from all over the country. So the ABA was a great resource for me, and it also was, as Franklin mentioned, a wonderful opportunity to see life beyond law school and sort of the reality and the potential, and inspire you to say, yeah, I want to do this. I'm going to reach out to X, Y, and Z and get the ball rolling. And then as a current attorney, I use a lot of the resources the ABA provides. Just it's amazing how many things you're looking for, and you're like, oh, look, here's a review on this, or a circular, or a podcast, or a webinar. So a lot of helpful information.
That's great. And obviously local bars and state bars, and of course a lot of it is dependent on locale, but I think be creative, be outgoing, like your two speakers today. I think that you can be an introvert and still be an entertainment lawyer, and we want to thank all of you for listening and sharing your questions, and I want to thank Franklin and Molly. You were terrific, and I need to turn this back over now to Emily and the ABA. Thanks all.
Thank you, Kathy, and thanks Franklin and Molly for your inspiring discussion on what it's like to be entertainment lawyers. And thank you all for attending today's webinar. Attendees, please be sure to check out our website at abalcc.org for free career-related articles and webinars. There's recordings of past programs on the website now, and on your screen are some of our upcoming programs in the Career Choice series, and also here are some coming up in the Career Advice series. And also be sure to check out our job board, and you can connect with us on social media. And you can also meet the board on our About page. And please do complete our short survey before leaving. And thank you again for attending, and have a great day.